Hello everyone. This is not a story for the faint of heart. Today, we will be stepping into the darkness of the most gruesome cases, where evil not only exists, but also leaves bloody and haunting traces. This is Real Gruesome Murder Cases, a series of true stories about murders that made the whole world shudder. If you are ready to face the cold truth and the gruesome corners of humanity, come with me to delve deeper into each case. The Cursed Town. Content warning. Murder, suicide. He walked up through the dusty road which led to the small town of Temans. It was twilight, and a light wind was blowing. Far away, the crop plantations acquired a greenish-orange color due to the light of the sun. On the other side, one could catch a faint glimpse of the Temans Church, with its tall steeple standing majestically high up in the sky. The yellow-orange hue of the sky washed the town, and the muddy red road was illuminated with a touch of gradient yellow. The whole town looked peaceful, and surprisingly, nobody was outside their houses. He entered the town and looked at the banyan tree in front of him. It had remained much the same. He looked up at the houses and walked towards them. Darkness was falling now. The red-orange hue was slowly swept away, and a dark blue color entered, only with a touch of crimson at its bottom. Shadows fell here and there, creating a spooky atmosphere, and he quickened his pace, as if to avoid the evil spell cast by the shadows of the houses. The moon came up, not too bright, for clouds were starting to surround it from all sides. He glanced upwards and realized that he had to take shelter somewhere. Rainfall could occur any time now. He walked through the dusty and muddy road and looked here around for inns, but there were none. Finally, he found a big apartment which was deserted. He let out a sigh of relief and walked up the stairs and entered the apartment. It was evident that the apartment was still under construction work. It was not completed. However, years of neglect had withered away the raw smell of the brick walls, and small plants could be seen growing almost everywhere. All of them had a feeling of evil in them. The brick walls, the plants, the floors, and even the ceiling. It was like they had witnessed a lot of sad events and were telling him not to go further inside the house. The house itself was spooky, with its large corridors and almost no rooms. A huge, round staircase led to the other floors. The grayish appearance of the apartment matched perfectly with his gray and withered t-shirt and pants. He went up the staircase and reached the terrace. It was broad and wide, and one could see the beautiful town stretched before it. He looked down and was surprised to see an old woman with a lantern standing in the doorway of the apartment, waving her hands to call him. He descended the staircase and ran out of the apartment to meet the old woman. The woman was short in stature and had gray hair, with sometimes a tint of black in them. Her face was wrinkled and she looked at him through her cat-green eyes, piercingly. "What are you doing here?" she asked coldly. "I am a visitor, and I came here for certain business matters. I could not find any inn to spend the night in, so I came here," he said. She looked at him suspiciously, and then said, "Okay, you better come with me. This place is not good, especially at night." He nodded his head and followed the old woman. He was cold with fear and could not understand what was happening. He followed her till they reached a cottage, and the old woman asked him to enter. He went inside and enjoyed the warmth of the fire which was lit. He sat down on a sofa, and the woman came to her with a candle. She placed the candle on the table and handed him a plate. "You must be hungry. Here, have some food. You better not go to the apartment anymore." "Why?" he asked. "It's a long story. I have seen too much of this world to remember happy deeds. Most are evil." "What do you actually mean? Do you want to hear?" "Yes, I do." She took a long, deep breath and then began. "Long ago, when I was about 17 years of age, there used to live a plantation owner named Hamilton. He had a lot of money and was very rich. You see those plantations? All those were Sir Hamilton's. He was not only rich, but kind and generous too. He used to donate with open hands. He had a beautiful wife, 4 daughters, and 1 son. However, naturally, his neighbors were very jealous of him and despised him. He did not care that much for that. But one day, his neighbors attacked his family. His daughters were of almost my age then, and the son was only a baby. They killed his daughters and his wife, but somehow Hamilton and his son were able to escape. "Why did not Hamilton inform the police?" he asked. "There was no evidence against the neighbors. He had nothing to do. I later heard that he had fled somewhere to Canada." "But how does it relate to the apartment?" The old woman sighed. Her green eyes glistened, and she said, "The apartment was being made by Hamilton. He wanted to turn it into a hospital." "Yes, but how does that matter anyway?" Rain had started falling heavily, and the fire and candle went out. The 2 people were left in total darkness. However, he could still see the old woman's eyes glistening. The old woman said, "For the past few years, there had been a lot of suicides there. Many girls of around 16, 17 years are committing suicide there. It all started with the daughter of Mrs. Morpin. She jumped from the terrace you were standing a few minutes ago. The second case was of Mrs. Rayon's daughter. She was found hanging from the chandelier one morning, her face white and terror-stricken. He was taken aback and looked at the old woman with wide and fearful eyes. Lightning struck, illuminating the whole room for a moment, and he could see the old woman's face, ugly, wrinkled with a strong, piercing glance, which was almost witch-like. He wanted to run out of the house, but some strange power kept him rooted to his seat. The old woman said, "You better go to sleep now. I guess you had a very tiresome day." The old woman showed him his bedroom, and he fell down on his bed, immediately asleep. The next morning, when he woke up, he could see the sun shining brilliantly outside. He heaved himself up and went to the living room. The old woman was preparing coffee. She handed him a cup, and he sat down on the sofa. He drank from the cup the delicious, thick cappuccino and felt refreshed. He almost forgot all the horrible incidents from yesterday night. "Where do you want to go today? I can show you the way. It is evident that you are new to this place, as you were talking about inns in here. I have heard about Kingsman's Place here. Can you please take me there?" "Kingsman's Place? Okay, I will. It is a business center here. When do you want to go?" "About 9:30. What do you say? Please prepare a packed lunch for me." "Of course. Get ready then." He went back to his bedroom and took out his suitcase. He looked at himself in the mirror. He was middle-aged, but still, he looked pretty young. He brought out a coat, shirt, and pant and put it on. He looked the perfect businessman. After having breakfast, the two went out. On the way, they came across the Flint River. There he saw some girls whispering and talking together. One of them was extremely beautiful. Her fair skin with an orange tint made one remember pure milk. Her eyes were a deep blue, and she had beautiful black eyelashes. Her cheeks were pink, and her lips were a light red. Her mass of curls was thrown at her back, and she wore a pretty green dress. Her hands were well-toned, and her legs were slender and well-shaped. She looked a pretty picture. He stared at her for some time, and then she turned to the old woman, and pointing to the girl, he asked, "Who is that girl?" The old woman glanced at the girl and then said, "She is Mr. Trudeau's daughter." "Pretty, isn't she?" "Yes," he said. "What is her age?" "About 17. He sighed and gestured at the old woman to move forward. They reached Kingsman's Place, and the old woman left him there with his lunchbox. He did not wait there. As soon as the old woman was out of sight, he started running. He did not stop until he reached the old building. He entered and went up to the terrace. The terrace was absolutely empty. Despite being so large, the parapets were very low, and there were high risks of falling to death in case of an accidental slip. Unlike the rest of the house, almost no plants were there on the terrace due to some unknown reason. He roamed here and there on the terrace. He stepped very carefully, and whenever he looked down, he was sick at the sight of houses so far down below. He hated heights and was afraid of them. He went downstairs and waited. "You know, Laura, I will go to Grandma Fontaine's house today." The words kept ringing in his mind. To reach Grandma Fontaine's house, she had to cross this building. There she was coming, alone. Nobody was with her. He waited silently, and as soon as she came in front of the apartment, he gripped her hand and pulled her inside. Before she could scream, he put a handkerchief under her nose, and smelling the chloroform, she fell unconscious. He now prepared for it. He dragged her upstairs to the terrace and carefully washed her face. He then threw her down the parapet, and she landed with a loud thud sound. Dead. Yes, she was dead. Blood was flowing from her, and her pretty face was peaceful. He quickly fled from the place before anybody could see him. He did not return to the old woman's house. He kept walking towards the outskirts of the town. It would take him almost 3 hours to get out. He had seen his own sisters and mother get killed in front of him. Those Morpins, Rayons, Trudeaus, and Greys have killed them out of jealousy. He and his father had somehow fled. But after some time, his father also died. He died saying, "Kill Morpin, kill Trudeau, kill Rayon, kill Gray. Don't let them live." He had done that. He had killed all of them, except Gray's daughter. He would be back for her after the next 4 years. Yes, he would not let her live. They do not deserve to live. They had destroyed his life. He would destroy theirs. He would not let them be happy when his own happiness had been snatched away from him. Never. He looked back at the town. It was twilight yet again. The town looked peaceful, but he could hear faint sounds of crying. Let them cry. They will have to cry again after 4 years. He turned and walked away from the town as darkness fell and made the town silent. The voice thief. Tom, have you ever been in that situation when you are in a serious emergency, but you can't tell anyone? Well, if you have, you might have a similar story to mine. It all happened last year. I was at McDonald's for my best friend's birthday party when it happened. I was just walking around when a man in a Ronald McDonald costume walked past me. He looked at me and said, "Come here, child." Okay, that was a bit weird, and I was now questioning if this really was a man in a suit. So I kept my distance. That made him mad. I said, "Come here, child." He sneered. By this point, I was freaking out. This man was crazy. I had to warn the others. So that was when I did the only thing I could do. I screamed. That is, I tried to scream. Ronald looked at me and grinned. "Do you want your precious voice back?" he asked. I ran, unable to warn anyone of this monster. That was all I could do. And now, 1 year on, I still am. Okay, I know you're wondering, what on earth does that have to do with anything? Well, McDonald's is about to close down, so they're throwing a goodbye party. I'm going to go. I know, my first party in a while. There is but one reason I'm going. My voice. I need my voice back. I would give anything just to hear it again. I'm getting this Ronald McDonald guy back for what he has done. Ronald, my trap has worked. For years I have stolen the voices of children and added them to my collection. Each child has had their life ruined, and they don't have the brains to write a note to warn everyone else. But I have now become bored with my collection, and I decided, why not just capture the kids? I do have an enormous basement to put them in, and who would miss those brats anyway? My plan is simple. Capture all the kids that go to the throwaway party. Tom, the party is on. There are sales everywhere I look. Kids run around like crazy. I try not to get sidetracked by all the sales, but soon find myself in the queue. That's when I saw him, Ronald McDonald. It was time for revenge. Ronald, I can't believe how dumb this kid is. After I took his voice, he still comes to the party. Oh, well, I guess I'm in luck. So far, I have caught 30 kids. I'm going to give this one a jump scare. Tom, wait. Where on earth did that guy go? I sigh. Maybe I might see him again soon. That's when I felt a tap on my back. I turned around, and there he was, Ronald McDonald, his lips a blood-red color. "Come, child," he says. It's all a repeat of the first time we met. I forget revenge and run, and I won't stop this time. Ronald, the kid took the bait. He's running straight into my trap. Now it's time for some fun. Tom, okay. I know you're wondering how I ended up in this trap, but not even I know. I hear a creak as Ronald and McDonald enter the room. He holds my voice in one hand and a knife in the other. "Do you want your precious voice back?" he asked with a grin of pure evil. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I had no voice. That was when Ronald did something horrid. He killed my voice. He stabbed it. My voice screamed, and my throat went numb. My mission had failed. Ronald laughed, a wicked laugh. It was the type of laugh that freezes fire and melts ice. Then it occurred to me. I was going to die. Ronald, this kid has been an interesting type. The type that I like to turn into food. I seized him by the throat and carried him down a long passageway to the food processor. What food would I turn him into? A child nugget. Perfect. What a snack they will be. I'm drooling just thinking about it. Time to drop him in. Tom, I can't believe this. Pure cannibalism. Ronald let go. I fell down through the machine, landing in a pile of breadcrumbs. Before I could relocate, a huge roller ran over the top of me. I was knocked out cold. When I woke, I was in a freezer, marinating. Ronald McDonald sure has a bad recipe I thought. It was cold. I was surprised I wasn't dead yet. Then, out of nowhere, a claw grabbed me and I still shudder to think about it. It dunked me in grease. The grease was boiling. And that's when I realized I was being deep fried. I could feel life draining from my body. I tried to climb out of the grease, but it was too slippery. I was going to be a snack for Ronald McDonald. By now, I was just a blob of food in the universe. My breathing slowed, and with 5 minutes left, I would be cooked. Every second became a struggle. I was dying. 1 minute left. You can do this, I told myself. 30 seconds left. You can do this, I said, between each gulp of air. 10 seconds. I gave up. The heat swallowed me up the way Ronald McDonald will when I come out of here. The truth was clear. I couldn't do this. Ronald, ding. The door creaked open and slammed down on the floor. Out came my child nuggets. I licked my lips. Tasty. They smell delicious. I lifted one up and took a bite. Crunchy. Soon I have eaten them all. They should be on the menu. Oh well, I guess it's time to go upstairs. You never know who might be up there, just waiting to be taken. The Murderous Twins. The McKellen twins felt the librarian's stinky breath brush against their nape. So they quickly slid their dirt and blood-stained hands under the table. "Shut up, you two," hissed the librarian. "Sorry," said Milo McKellen, with the fakest of smiles. The librarian stomped back to his dimly lit desk, where he resumed his scribbling on a notebook. Occasionally, he raised his bald head to survey the hall like a living security camera. Martin McKellen peeked under the table. A few droplets of blood had stained his jeans, and now it would be impossible for him, or rather, his mother, if she hadn't been gone, to wash them away. They would become foolproof evidence, marked forever on his favorite pair of pants. A pale moonlight cast long shadows over the library hall, where the McKellen twins, still soaking wet from the rain, had found shelter. They had sat on one of the long benches, their hands and arms covered in dirt and blood. And now they were arguing. Their disagreement kept on drawing the attention of the librarian, who scowled at the twins and scolded them whenever they spoke a little louder. "See that corner over there?" Martin asked Milo. "Let's go talk there. He won't interrupt us." The twins tiptoed to a corner far from where the librarian sat, hoping to get more privacy. They were surrounded by books, as dusty as if no one had ever touched them except the person who had placed them there centuries prior. "So," said Milo. "What were we?" "The body," said Martin. "Yes, the body. I think we should have buried it instead of letting it sink into the lake," Martin snorted. as if a hump of soil in the middle of the woods is something you see every day. Better than a dead woman in the trunk of her own car, if you ask me. What other options were there? I couldn't even think straight. Those damn blue lights. Well, it's no use discussing this now, said Milo. We got rid of her. Something hit the floor and echoed throughout the library hall. Martin peeped out. The librarian was kneeling near the bench where the twins were sitting earlier, and he was struggling to get back up. The ink from his fountain pen had bled in a large puddle onto the marble floor, and now the librarian was fumbling for a tissue to clean that mess with. Milo peeped too, and he said, "He'll be busy for a while." Martin leaned against the book-filled shelves and sighed. "We can't hide in a library forever, Milo." "I know," he said. "But we've got to at least wait for the rain to stop so that we can hop on a train and leave." "Where were you thinking?" Martin asked. Milo shrugged. "I don't know. Canada?" Suddenly, a clap of thunder boomed in the night sky outside, and the library's doors burst open. Martin looked over at the two men who had just entered the building. They were wet, just like the twins were, but they wore blue uniforms, like police officers, said Martin in a quivering whisper. "There's two of them. What do we do?" Milo whispered back. Martin shook his head. "I have no idea," he thought. He was afraid to even think at this point. "They came looking for us," said Milo. "No doubt about that. Otherwise, what would two police officers do in a library after hours?" "Hush, Milo," said Martin. "Please, don't let us be caught." "Good evening," thundered a voice. It was one of the two men. The twins cocked their ears. "I'm Agent Phillips, and this is Agent Clifford. We're looking for a couple of young men, probably in their 20s, red-haired, pretty thin." The librarian did not answer, so the other police officer, Clifford, urged him. "Have you seen someone with this profile by chance?" Martin held his breath. He prayed the librarian didn't reveal where he and his brother were hiding. Second by second, a thick silence was filling up the atmosphere, like a cake rising in the oven. Except this oven was far too hot, and this cake was about to explode. "Avoid us any trouble, Mr. Librarian," said Agent Phillips. "Just tell us if you've seen them or not, and we won't bother you any longer." Martin pushed Milo back into the corner and flattened himself against the bookshelves in case their cover was about to be blown. The librarian cleared his throat and spoke. "No," he said. "I haven't seen them." Martin and Milo gasped as quietly as they could and peeped out from behind the bookshelves once again. The two police officers were looking at one another. Clifford's eyes became two narrow slits, two poison darts he was now aiming at the librarian. "Are you sure?" said the agent. "Sure," said the librarian, trying to sound more sure than he was. "Very well," said Agent Phillips, nudging at Clifford. "Sorry to have disturbed you. We'll leave you now." But Clifford turned and pointed at the bench where the twins were sitting earlier. Under it, there was a mess of paper tissues and ink. And, "Look," said Martin to his brother. "The blood is gone." Milo looked down at the blood on his hands, by now dry, and then over at the bench. "What blood, Martin?" When I hid my hands under the table, I spilled blood everywhere, on my jeans, on the floor. Clifford's voice boomed once again. "What's that over there, Mr. Librarian?" Agent Phillips grabbed his colleague by his arm. "Let's stop it here, Ben. He says he hasn't seen them." Clifford broke free of Phillips' grip and fetched the heap of stained paper from the ground. He marched back to the librarian's desk, where the poor man was standing still, but frail, like a clay statue. Clifford unfolded one tissue and slammed it on the librarian's desk. It was stained with large blotches of blood. "What about this, Mr. Librarian?" Clifford scoffed. "Been dabbing the floor all night long, haven't you?" The librarian didn't move a muscle. He just stared at the stained tissue. "These kids have slaughtered their mother," Clifford roared. For a moment, all the books in the library seemed to have teetered, like there had been a severe but rapid earth tremor. "Clifford, calm down now," Agent Phillips commanded. He turned to the librarian. "Tell us the truth, sir. As you can see, this is pretty urgent." The librarian slowly pointed his index finger at the corner where the twins were hiding. Milo gulped, and Martin stopped breathing altogether. The two police officers looked at one another one last time. Agent Clifford pulled out 2 pairs of handcuffs, and Phillips led the way. When they reached the darkened corner, where the twins were supposed to be hiding, though, there were only rows of shelves full of dusty tomes to welcome them. "The mistakes we've made." Content. Warning. Some swearing. The only problem with breaking into your neighbor's house is if someone else beats you to it. The Mastersons are gone for the month, summering in Fiji or Acapulco, or wherever people go when they're filthy rich and can afford to flaunt it by using words like summering. Before leaving, they'd asked me to watch their house. For free, of course. I smiled and told them they had nothing to worry about. It wasn't until their blue Bugatti sped down our dead-end street that I finally uncrossed the fingers, hiding behind my back. Burglary 101. A good heist is all about patience. For 2 weeks now, I've spent night after sweaty July night sequestered in my stuffy attic, with my telescope trained on the Masterson house, their backyard swimming pool, their organic vegetable garden, their novelty chicken mailbox. Think Rear Window. Only I'm not as handsome as James Stewart. Why wait so long? Because breaking into someone's house the first week they're on vacation is so predictable, and the second week even less subtle. But the third week, no one ever suspects that third week, which is probably why, right now, during the middle of the third week, as I'm zipping up my black coveralls and adjusting my ski mask, as I'm stooping down to peer through my telescope, which has become a worse habit for me than day drinking, I can feel my heart free fall its way to the basement. Across the street, the shadow of a person creeps toward my neighbor's veranda. It's almost midnight. Everything is dark outside, like a chocolate cake when you don't bake it right, and the person shines a dim light in front of them. I hold my breath as they reach the door's smart lock. Their fingers bounce around the keypad with all the dexterity of a fat kid in a confectionery shop. Then the numbers light up, and the door swings open, and they slip inside the house. I wait a few more minutes, expecting to see a light bulb spark to life in one of the windows, when the place remains unlit. I grab my cell phone and a black hefty bag, and then I'm off, gliding across my house to the front door. Think risky business, only I'm not as smooth as Tom Cruise. I'll be honest with you. When I arrive at the Mastersons, fulfilling my promise to watch their house is the furthest thing from my mind. Really, I just don't want whoever's inside to take all the good shit before I get a chance. The smart lock keypad awaits my touch. My fingers move with all the dexterity of a fat kid running a mile, but the numbers still brighten, and the door swings open, coaxed by the passcode that I'd obtained after several months of attic telescoping. Inside, the house is as dark and chocolate cakey as outside. The scent of vanilla lingers in the air, sprayed every 15 minutes via one of the house's 1,000 automatic air fresheners. From the kitchen comes the sound of a cabinet being opened, wine glasses clinking. Using my phone's flashlight, I make my way toward the noise and hope whoever's in there hasn't yet discovered Mrs. Masterson's 60-piece bone china dinner set. I'm not sure what exactly you're supposed to say to someone who's hunched over and dumping a whole drawer of silverware into a burlap sack. So I aim my flashlight at their back and settle for a classic. Hi, how's it going? Nice and casual, not too confrontational, with a hint of politeness. Maybe I am as smooth as Tom Cruise. My words come as the last knife in the drawer hits the bottom of the sack. In an instant, the person drops both drawer and sack, grabs something from their waist, clicks a button. Blue light appears like magic. A thin strand of electricity crackles to life. Pointing the taser gun at me, she shouts, "Put your hands up, and don't fucking move." I'll be honest with you. I've always thought people who talk about love at first sight were full of it. But now, standing there in front of this woman, because there's no doubt the voice belongs to a woman, I get what they mean. Think of the most beautiful woman you've seen. Sandra Bullock, probably. Then imagine her standing there, pointing a stun gun at you in your neighbor's kitchen. Legs like a desert oasis, curves like a rainbow, brown hair flowing down her back as she straightens her trigger finger. Because that's exactly what this woman is like. At least, I imagine so. She's wearing a black latex catsuit and a matching ski mask that make her look formless in the veil of night, even in the taser's blue glow. Not 1 inch of skin showing, but sometimes a voice is all you need to really know someone. That's how all my previous relationships have started, with a voice. And those were nice while they lasted. Whoa, 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 I say, taking a few steps back and turning off my phone's flashlight to show her I'm harmless. I come in peace. Who are you? The words bubble like acid rain. My feet take another step back without asking my brain. The taser is still aimed at my chest. I'm the Mastersons' neighbor. I point vaguely in the direction of my house. She starts to close one eye like she's about to open fire, so I add, and believe it or not, I'm here to do the same thing you're doing. Slowly, finally, she lowers her weapon, so now it's aimed at my crotch. It's a small victory. I take what I can get these days. I want her to trust me, so I run my hand along the wall in search of the light switch. If she could only see the hefty bag in my hand, she'd know where we stand. At last, the switch pricks my thumb, and all at once, we're bathed in pure white light. Cut that shit off, she hisses. And it's like Jesus himself said the words. They sound so beautiful. And so is she, probably. But the light switch clicks, and it's dark again. She looks out the window, swivels her head from end to end of the sidewalk. Then she taps a button on her taser, and the blue crackling is gone, replaced by a regular flashlight, which she shines directly in my eyes. Are you trying to get me caught? Sorry. Unbelievable, she mutters, and crouches to pick up her burlap sack, leaving the silverware drawer on the floor. The sliver of moonlight from the window makes her look like an angel. An angel who's approaching the 60-piece bone china collection with my name on it. I rap on the wall twice, and it works. She stops, turns to face me. The moonlight reveals only the left side of her ski mask. Look, I think we got off on the wrong foot, I say, peeling off my own mask with one hand and offering a truce with the other. I'm Mac, by the way. She stares at my proffered hand, like she doesn't want to contract whatever form of leprosy I have. The night air is a blanket, heavy and warm around us, filled with the songs of crickets and cicadas. We stand there, listening to the house groan under our feet. Above our heads, the ski mask feels like a dumbbell in my hand. This is usually the part where you tell me your name. No, the woman says, arcing her taser flashlight across the adjoining living room. She marches to the baby grand piano in the corner, no doubt trying to devise a way to wheel it into the night. Okay, I'll just call you Jenny, I say, following her. That was my last girlfriend's name, which is information that was supposed to stay in my head before my mouth sabotaged me. But now it's too late. The words bridge the space between us like a Chinese finger trap, binding us together as accomplices. She pauses, one hand poised atop a stack of outdated sheet music. Beethoven or Bach or Mariah Carey. Turning around, she stares at me behind her ski mask and opens her glossy mouth. It doesn't matter that she showed up to a robbery wearing lipstick. It doesn't matter that she almost tased me 2 minutes ago. My heartbeat quickens all the same, and my blood rushes to places where it probably shouldn't be. Slowly, finally, she says, "Shut up, Max," and dumps the music into her sack, Mariah Carey and all. And it doesn't even matter that she got my name wrong. She could read the yellow pages, cover to cover, and I would listen forever, falling asleep and waking up to the sound of her voice every day. So, yes, I shut up. We shuffle to separate corners of the living room and inspect our potential treasures. And let me tell you, it's the longest 5 minutes of silence in my life. But then, as I'm snatching a handful of angelfish from the Masterson's aquarium and tossing them into my garbage bag, curiosity creeps up on me like it's driving a free candy van. And I can't help but to ask, how did you get past the smart lock anyway? It took me meeks of watching with my telescope to get the numbers. I cringe hearing the word meeks, a hasty overcorrection, when I opted not to tell her how long my spying has actually been going on. Jenny scoffs from across the room, where she's trying desperately to pry a taxidermied deer head from its throne above the mantelpiece. Really? You couldn't figure out 1234? She turns and gives me a dismissive shake of her head. They're boomers. It's not frickin' rocket science. Another candy van question slips out. Why are you doing this? She sighs and stops tugging, but keeps her hands on the antlers. I'm just taking what I'm owed. That's all, she says. Her voice is different than before, softer maybe. I mean, seriously. These people can go to Acapulco for a month, but they can't afford to pay their employees a decent wage. So it was Acapulco, I murmur. You know something? I'd probably be home right now watching Netflix if Ed weren't so fucking stingy. Whether she means Mr. Edwin Masterson or Mrs. Edna Masterson, it's impossible to say. And I don't feel it's my place to ask. I see. What about you? Jenny has given up on the deer head, opting for the floor-to-ceiling bookshelf instead. They aren't paying you right either. I could tell her the truth, that the Mastersons have never wronged me, have always invited me to their cookouts and their Christmas parties, that I'm just a guy with too much time on his hands, all the time in the world, and something to prove, that I'm invading someone else's life tonight to try to find some meaning in my own. That I'm a spineless, indecisive loser, and I'm destined to let the world walk all over me. That last one is what my previous girlfriend told me anyway. Old Jenny. But that was 3 years ago. People can change in that amount of time, right? I would never have thought of breaking into this house 3 years ago. If that's not change, I don't know what is. New Jenny is staring at me, awaiting my answer. Yeah, something like that, I tell her, plunging my hand back into the aquarium. Figures. She flings a tattered Gutenberg Bible into her burlap sack. Hypocrites. Chad. Burglary 201. Always use the toilet before a heist. When I return from the bathroom, couldn't have been in there more than 5 minutes. The living room is abandoned. From the kitchen comes the rattle of a teacup and a saucer. And then I know this woman is no angel. In the kitchen, Jenny stands on her tiptoes to reach the top of the cabinet. She curls a few fingers around a piece of Mrs. Masterson's bone china, a white teacup with floral patterning. It is the penultimate item in the cabinet. What the hell are you doing? I say, as she lowers her body, cup in hand. My voice, louder than expected, ricochets off the now empty walls like a pinball. She startles, then slips her present into her sack. A reverse Santa Claus. What does it look like? You're taking my bone china set is what it looks like. Jenny shrugs and points to the lone piece in the cabinet. A plain-looking white saucer with gold trim. All yours. Have at it. No. I grab my soggy, hefty bag from its spot by the aquarium, stretch it as wide as it'll go. Give me half. The air freshener on the wall vomits vanilla mist as Jenny cocks her head. So, she says, nodding at the cabinet. Do you want it or not? Half, I demand. She snorts and shakes her head. Done with me. Hauling her sack, she troops down the hallway toward the bathroom. I have to stop myself from grabbing her arm. The equation is simple arithmetic. She has a taser. I don't. The saucer is an orphan in its cupboard, waiting for someone to take pity on it. It's cool to the touch in my longing fingertips. My hefty bag is still gaping like a hungry, hungry hippo. But I slide the saucer in my breast pocket for safekeeping. The toilet flushes, and Jenny emerges from the bathroom, still dragging her riches. She frowns when she sees me standing there. You know, I think I misjudged you, Jenny. You're not an angel at all. You know that? Her laugh is like the curtains bulging from her sack, velvety and hideous. Oh, I'm not an angel? Breaking news? More at 11. Her taser flashlight falls on my trash bag. What? You think you're some kind of saint? These people aren't my neighbors. I'm supposed to be watching the house, actually, I confess. That's really why I'm here. Mr. Masterson put his faith in me. Well, you're doing a great job. Jenny opens a hallway closet and inspects Mrs. Masterson's collection of mink coats as though she's in a bookstore, contemplating life's hardest decision: paperback or hardcover. Let me know if you need a letter of recommendation. My face feels like it's summering in Acapulco. The novelty of Jenny's sarcasm has worn off. Now it leaves me grinding my teeth. Look, I'm gonna step outside, I tell her, tapping the imaginary vape pen in my pocket. I need a smoke break. 10 minutes, max, Jenny commands, with all the authority of a Walmart manager. I'm still wondering if that meant maximum, or if she'd simply mispronounced my name again when I stumble out into the night. A hot, gentle breeze greets me on the sidewalk, a gift from the passing cars on the next block. My house sits across the street, pale and lonely, and devoid of bone china. The telescope in the attic is pointed directly at me, watching. The Mastersons' novelty chicken mailbox taunts me. They are all waiting for me to do what it is I actually came out here for. Why not? Why not fulfill my promise? Just so she can walk away with my dinner set while I get to drag some dead fish home. It only takes a few taps of my phone. Then a voice on the other end comes through, high-pitched and much too perky. 911. What's your emergency? Hi. How's it going? Yeah, hey, my house is being broken into right now, I say, and pray this woman doesn't know what Mr. Masterson sounds like as I give her the address. She's got a mountain of questions for me high as Everest, and I listen to myself answer them. Only I'm talking on autopilot because I'm too busy thinking about the two Jennys, old and new. How old Jenny would have called me spineless for what I'm doing now, turning someone in while being part of the problem. How new Jenny came here tonight because she wanted to right a wrong, because she believed in something. At least one of us has a good reason, and that gets me thinking. She can't be all bad, right? Maybe not an angel, but not all bad. She did let me have the last saucer. Maybe we just started off on the wrong foot. Maybe we could get to know each other better. Maybe then she'd even tell me her name. The operator is still talking a mile a minute when I interrupt. Hold on, I think. I think there are 2 people in the house now. Yes, another one just joined. And when I feed her the Masterson's address again, I whisper, please come quickly. But I'll be honest with you. That last part is for dramatic effect, just to see how long it'll take someone to show up to a fancy place like this. 5 minutes? 10? What do I care? I have all the time in the world. The operator tells me it won't be long, that they're sending someone right now to come help. She asks me to stay calm and remain where I am. So I stroll to the front door. I can hear Jenny's voice before my feet touch the porch, cussing one of the Eds out as she lugs her sack across the marble floor. Her bone china jingles in the night like a plea, begging my lone saucer to partake. I retrieve it from my pocket, give it a squeeze, and step inside, ready to see the mistakes we've made. The chance of a half-dead man and Dr. Jane White sound filled the living room as Jane struggled to find her TV remote. Soft pillows scattered all over the carpet, leaving a minimal space for Jane to stomp around angrily. She never liked the white sound. Haunting as it is, Jane tried to calm herself and collect memories of where she placed her TV remote. Her hand slips into the crease and the fold of her sofa, grasping at the empty space in between. Jane moved her hand slowly to the corner of her sofa, and her hand finally hit something. She grabbed the object and surprised when she saw it was her remote, aging with the dust that have reside inside her sofa. Relieve. Welcome her as she turned the TV off. Something heavy still tugging at her mind. If she hadn't been working so late, she might not miss her favorite show again this week. A soft tune started to pull her way from her tired mind. Jane rise to find her phone. Ugh, again? Why do I keep forgetting my things? Her lovely mother would be laughing at her for such silly behavior a doctor can have. Jane suddenly misses her. It's been 5 years since her mother passed away. Yet her laughter and smile still here with Jane. She hopes it will never fade away. Jane lifts her foot carefully to walk between the messy pillows, focusing herself on the tunes from her phone. One missed call had waited for her before another call struck. Jane was shocked that her cousin was the caller, for it was highly unusual of Charles to call late at night. Wave of panic came knocking before Jane braced herself to pick up the call. Hello, Jane? Charles's voice was shaky. Panic surged through Jane completely. Charles, are you okay? Jane started to walk away from her living room. I need help, Jane. Can you come to my house right now and bring your medical bag? Please, Jane. A lightning strike her heart, and Jane ran to her room upstairs. I'll be there. Don't worry, Charles. You're going to be okay. She hated to ask questions, especially the ones she knew she won't like the answer. Charles have a dire reason why to call Jane that night. They were close when they were kids. Their memories of childhood are blended together. Not a single memory without each other. Jane was driving at a high speed because the stream in her head won't stop worrying about Charles. She had tried to blur it out, just like every bloody wound she had to stitch, and every smile she had to put at the end of it all. She won't be okay at the end of the road for this, but being a doctor and a friend for Jane means more than her mental state. What become of it is that Jane can only feel the cold wind of the night. No more warmth. Every time she looked at the mirror, all she can think about is how dark her eyes are and what people might think happened to her when they saw it. Jane slowed down her car as she drives towards the house gate. For a businessman, Charles was very successful. Family and friends never knew what he was selling or buying to be this rich, almost drowning in his own gold, really. The gate automatically moved to open up a path for guests. Optical sensors and cameras cover every inch of the house entry, watching its newcomer every day. Authentic English patterns made the dark metals of the gate seem stronger, unbreakable. Solid walls keeping the vulnerable secrets safe within. Smoke diffused and expanded from his cigarette as Jane watched an old man waiting for her at the lobby. A familiar face running close behind him. Charles. Quick! Chandelier lights glimmer above. Its reflection made Jane's dark red hair burns with shades of amber. Jane rushed inside the grand house, certain of her steps, diving into the role of Dr. Jane again. Blood trails all over the white marble of the house. Charles lead the way into a dark hall, then down the stairs. The room was more like a morgue than a basement, or maybe a combination of both. Jane can't tell why Charles has this odd room. She was expecting a knife cut, or maybe a sprained ankle, rather than a grim room, that smell of blood and alcohol. Charles seemed fine and had no difficulties in movement when Jane saw him. Another man had been waiting instead of those images of Charles hurting. His skin was pale despite having a bronze tone. Bluish shade of his lips and under eyes removed the warmth of a living man. He had lost a lot of blood. Jane began to worry that he might not survive. Charles held the man's hand as he waited for Jane to prepare her kit. The mysterious man was bare-chested. Someone tore his shirt to press it on his wounds. "No, I forgot my suture. I can't patch him up." "I got it. Anything that you need. Here." Charles pointed at a small white cupboard not far from him. Through the glass, Jane saw a complete collection of basic surgical equipment. She stopped for a moment, wondering how come a normal businessman own a complete surgical equipment. Maybe countless times he had been in this situation. "Jane, hurry, please." The word struck like a punch in the face. Jane does not want to let her suspicion rise and get the best of her. The mysterious man needed Dr. Jane, and that is what he will get. Jane laid all the medical equipment on the table next to the surgical bed. One thing was missing from Charles's collection: the anesthetic. "You don't happen to have any anesthetic, do you?" Jane feared the answer to her own question. His ocean eyes moved from left to right in distress, trying to figure something out. debating a will within himself. A simple headshake is what he gave in the end. Jane tried to collect herself and keep a steady state, both for herself and Charles. She hates to see someone hurt, and she hates to be the one doing the hurting. There's no one in the room but the three of them. That gave Jane an unexpected relief. Slowly, and one by one, she overcome the surgery. Aseptic conditions before reaching for the gloves and mask. Deep breaths before examining the wound. A small pause before sanitizing it with iodine. The brown liquid trickled down from each sides of the wound. His right shoulder was the first one she cleaned, then the one above the abdomen, a little to the left, almost to the heart. Whoever struck this man have planned the attack, explicitly to weaken this man before struck his heart. Jane examined the red line on his shoulder. It was clean. Very sharp object. Not too wide, not too deep. The angle of it looked like there was a struggle before the object wounded his skin. A gash under his eyes said the same thing, but the object seems to be blunt. Bruises accompanied his jaw and cheekbones. As the time passed by, Jane worried that his features will match his bruises. If she can be fast enough, maybe this man will live. Jane started to understand the rhythm of Charles's breathing. He was so still when Jane punctured the first needle to stitch the man's right shoulder. Then Charles started to ease up when she moved to the next wound, closing each bloody gap, step by step. All the hours spent at the hospital always meant something to her. It is not only to fix physically, but also mentally. People got attached to so many things in their life. Countless things. They can't properly heal until there is nothing left but the old traces of scar. As a surgeon, Jane always felt she fixed people, gave them a help to heal. Fixing and giving, that is all there ever was. Helping people to find their strength again, grow from their experience. She was there when a mother cried for her dead son, taken too soon after 5 years of battling leukemia. She was there when a single father decided to permit donation of his son's organs. The son died of car crash. She had failed to save their child, but she was there to help them heal too. She told them of how their child fight for them, thinking of their family at their last moments. There are times when Jane gave a mother her newborn conjoined twins, separated by surgery, but all well and healthy. They will have a scar forever, but that scar will be a reminder of their fight, even before they can remember. Jane had been a part of that. She was more than glad to be a part of that. Mother always told her to help people. Do everything from the bottom of her heart, genuine and certain. Believe that there will be a relief for every difficulty. As the last stitch sealed, Jane released a slow breath. She placed clean pieces of bandage over the man's wound. Though not as pale as he once was, the man was laying still and unconscious on the table. He might wake soon after this. Make sure he's hydrated. No alcohol, Charles nodded, his eyes distant. He's holding his breath, waiting for the moment when the mysterious man finally opened his eyes. Charles looks almost drowning in fear. Something glinted in his eyes, something Jane never seen before. One question: what happened? Jane hated the question. It would be easier for her if Charles just spill everything. They both know it won't happen. Jane took her gloves and mask off, avoiding Charles's eyes. Still, she wanted to hear everything in its full truth. You know I can't. You don't want to get involved more than you already are. His eyebrows creased. Anger and regret rise up in him at the same time, waiting for Charles to open the door and release them. For so many reasons, he deserves to feel that way tonight. Okay, it's obvious, Charles. Her eyes darted to him. Jane realized tears had gathered in his eyes and slowly spilling out. What do you mean? Charles ran a hand through his hair. Memories, uninvited, flashing in his brain. If you're going to play game of secrets, so be it. There is a long and dangerous story behind this. Jane, sure of it. It is not her place to push Charles. A shallow understanding came for her, like leeches. Heavy for now, but light for later, she thought. He got some deep wounds. He barely makes it. At least, if you care about him, you'll need me again. What had the help meant? What was the urging reason for a woman to save a mysterious, half-dead man in the middle of the night? Something in her awaken. A warrior ready to take everything by the tip of her spear. Jane saved a man. She will give him medications. Help him gain his health again. A chance to build again. Jane fear the chance will take chances. Can it be real? Had she just saved a criminal's life? What does the fixing and giving means now? Stream of thoughts had preceded her kind intentions, leaving the cold and soundless room behind her. Jane walked away. Liability in Lingotto. When the police forcibly entered 43-year-old Paulina Fiore's apartment, they found her lifeless body on the floor of the kitchen, covered in mysterious bruises. The lead detective immediately suspected homicide and ordered an autopsy. But after extensive analysis, the coroner concluded the cause of death was vitamin C deficiency. In a video appearing on social media, Stephanie Brolo, who sources confirm is a close friend of Paulina, is seen weeping and uttering, "This is all my fault." At the offices of my city's largest newspaper, I sip my third espresso of the morning and finish writing the story. 1 coffee per story is a good rule to live by. I wish I could teach this to new journalists, but they have their own ways of doing things. After I finish my third random fatality write-up of the morning, I announce, I'm sick of tabloid journalism, to the newsroom, to no one in particular. The young writers around me ignore me. In the economic downturn in traditional media, they are happy to simply hold a job. Giuseppe, our new chief editor, says articles with a topic of either sex or death receive 10 times more clicks than any other. The editorial concepts in his head are as blunt as the sales method of a fish seller in the market. I need to endure another month of ambulance chasing until I can focus on another piece of investigative journalism. My lengthy expose of government corruption last month, which filled half the front page of the print edition, received fewer views online than a weekend car crash or a nightclub brawl. Max? Giuseppe is standing in front of my desk. Why haven't you interviewed the friend yet? Friend? Friend of whom? Idiot. The it's all my fault friend. Young, attractive, trending online. Giuseppe says this with his voice rising in volume for each word. Stephanie Brolo. I show Giuseppe my memory, for detail is flawless. I didn't study political science to chase after friends of murder victims and suicides. Do it. He turns around and stomps off. Halfway across the newsroom, he turns back and shouts, Vitamin C. Focus on the vitamin C. Nutrition stories are good for our advertisers, Max. Several reporters type notes into their mobiles. Even an untrained eye can foresee them proposing all types of vitamin stories in tomorrow's news meeting. I dial the friend. This is Max Serafino. Is this Bianca? Yes, a female voice says, and hesitates. Are you with the police? Number I'm with the... I say the name of the newspaper. With a 137-year history, the name often opens doors. I thought the police would be the first to call. What do you want? The police in Italy would never bother with something as trivial as a comment on social media, unless a politician or celebrity was involved. I'd like to clarify what you said in the viral video on Italia app. I mention Italy's largest social media app. That video is ruining my life, Bianca says. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, everyone misunderstood what I said. I didn't have anything to do with Paulina's death. She stopped going out and looked thinner 6 months ago. Maybe I started her in this direction. She catches her breath. I only called her twice after she stopped seeing me. I should have tried harder, gone to her home. Yes? It's all too much, she says. Thanks for calling me, but sorry. I don't know who you are. Abruptly, the mobile screen turns red. She disconnects the WhatsApp call and goes offline. Good work on the Paulina interview. Giuseppe reaches over and picks up one of my antique pencils and massages it between his fingers. No problem, boss. I managed to knit the meager information I was given into a piece about a heartbroken friend and a substantial essay about eating disorders. Nice pencil. He studies the Castelli wooden pencil quixotically. Max, you are 10 years too old for this newsroom, but you are a cat that always lands on its feet. The Tiger of Turin, I propose. I'll accept that as a byline. An important-sounding moniker is the best I can hope for these days. I recall the Elysian days of being flown to Rome to interview government ministers, back when traditional newspapers collected all the advertising revenue instead of Google. When assigned a story, one of the first duties a beat reporter checks off is to contact the family members. I locate Paulina's father on social media and send an introduction. This is Max Serafino, a reporter with the Turin Register. I'm writing an article about the unfortunate incident with your daughter and would like to ensure I have all details correct. Please contact me at your earliest convenience. I receive a reply, which appears to be copied and pasted. We have nothing to say. Do not contact us again. The Fiore family. I move on to another breaking story, and the Paulina story goes quiet in the newsroom of the Turin Register for several days. "Max, line 7!" someone shouts. I answer, "City desk, Max Serafino." "This is Paulina Fiore's father," a man says. "Our daughter. It's all our fault. We saw how much time she was spending on her mobile and never stopped her." "I'm sure it's not your fault, but I would like to hear more," I say. "Is there a reason you decided to call me today?" The police unlocked her phone and asked us questions about the websites she was looking at. "Do you remember any of the names?" "I don't know. I've never heard of any of them," he said. "But most of the articles were about diseases. Was she in contact with anyone?" They did say she received the links from friends on the Italia app. Judging by reports from neighbors, Paulina has not been outside for months. The friends must be online ones. I call Professor Rizzo at the University of Turin. Could fear about disease, viruses, and bacteria, and so on, cause a patient to suffer from malnutrition? I ask. Mysophobia, commonly called germophobia, can cause a patient to avoid touching food, to eat with gloves, that sort of thing. In problem cases, it may cause patients to limit social interaction and avoid public places. Paulina appeared to be living on a diet of boiled pasta. That sounds possible, but I've never heard of malnutrition even in the most extreme cases of mysophobia. Hunger, including a desire for a mixed diet, is stronger than almost any other psychological urge. But isn't the urge to survive even stronger? I conjecture, trying to imagine what the existential threat could be. How could Paulina completely avoid something so widespread as vitamin C? I update the chief editor on my progress on the case. This has the workings of a good human interest story: food, fear, a female victim. Giuseppe looks satisfied. Keep digging, but steer clear from anything negative about Italia app. They deliver 30% of our incoming traffic. I am on speaking terms with many people in our city. People love to talk about themselves to someone who is actively listening, especially if they perceive them to be in a position of authority. After graduating university together, Bruno went on a different, more international path than I. Having worked for 15 years in Silicon Valley, he returned to our hometown and was soon snapped up by Italy's largest social media company. A glimpse at a life I could have lived. I canceled dinner with my girlfriend Gabriel to set up a cozy dinner with a 41-year-old man. On a clear, dry evening as dusk descends over Turin, as it sits in its valley between the towering Italian Alps on one side and the rolling hills that rise up from the Po River on the other, I walk toward the rectangular bulk of iron lattice that is the old Fiat factory in Lingotto on the south side of the city. The factory, almost a kilometer long, has transformed into offices and a ground floor shopping mall. Now it's popular with high-tech startups, many from America, France, and Germany. The building that was the epicenter of the city when Turin produced half the automobiles of Europe is now filled with people trying to figure out how to sell discount handbags through e-commerce. At least the people of Turin are no longer destined for a life of hard labor as previous generations were. Paulina lived not far from this building. At the Osteria del Fiat, I've asked for a quiet table. I'm disappointed when the host leads us to a very crowded dining room. We pass a large room with only one table of guests. In the circle of suited men, I recognize a retired local politician. In the dark recesses of the city, the power brokers don't like to be overheard. An hour later, after we have finished our own dinner, Bruno takes a large swig of the dolcetto d'alba we have been drinking. The obligatory pleasantries and the exchange of information about shared friends has been completed, and we can move on to the real meat of the dinner. I explain how Paulina had been accessing his employer's app over 50 times a day. At Italia app, we focus on returning traffic. Some readers we enchant with glamour, others we addict with fear. Isn't that manipulation? We are giving people what they want. If they want to hate, they will find it. If they want to love, they will find that too. What about promoting democracy and humanitarian values? That's just rhetoric for university students. You know that. Paulina Fiore died after gorging on fake news sent to her by Italia app. It's not our fault that someone can't handle online news. If we don't send it to them, someone else will. You have become very American in your thinking, I point out. It's disappointing my old friend can't see the world the same way we used to, but I've become resigned to accept people's differences, politically or otherwise. The police seem very interested in her social media history, I add. Bruno looks at me with renewed interest. Have the police opened an investigation? Maybe her death is not Italia app's fault. Maybe it's the people who write the fake news. If you can send me her browsing history, the one the police are going through, I'll take a look and put some spotlight on the fake news producers. That might keep you one step ahead in reacting to negative coverage. I'll keep your name out of it, of course. I'll think about it. Bruno focuses on his red wine glass. Bruno and I may not see eye to eye, but we have enough shared history to trust we will protect each other's best interests. The next afternoon, I receive Paulina's browsing history via an encrypted messaging app. I start clicking through the links. Italy's continuing flood of illegal immigrants. How COVID rises up through ventilation shafts. The 7 ways elevator buttons spread. Disease. Paparazzi capture pictures of Italy's first monkeypox patient. Vegetables in our supermarkets picked by immigrants inundated with monkeypox virus. I scan through months of links about deadly diseases and ways to avoid them. Fake news is a problem, and the government has been trying to combat it. In the thousands of links I scan through, my heart flutters as I spot our name. Don't trust what the government says about monkeypox. See attached articles from the Turin Register. Clicking the link, I see a list of familiar headlines. The dark hand behind the government reshuffle. Max Serafino. Patient malpractice allegations covered up by health authorities. Max Serafino. Pandemic recommendations. Misguided. Max Serafino. Corruption exposed in Turin government. Max Serafino. Other articles Paulina was reading, those not to trust doctors and government health advice, often link to articles written by me and my colleagues. I stare at the pencil that sits on my desk where Giuseppe left it earlier. Behind me, I hear someone approach and feel their hands on my shoulders. Giuseppe's voice says, "And you thought you were superior to all of us, didn't you?" Is it all? I am about to ask an obvious question, but stop myself. I have bills to pay and a scarcity of other work alternatives. I sweep pointless self-doubt from my mind. Journalists report the news. We do not generate it. With a click of the mouse, I bring up today's police bulletin and make proposals on which events we might cover for our prestigious 137-year-old newspaper to the chief editor. The next morning, a young journalist who normally sits beside me struts triumphantly through the newsroom greeting colleagues. Giuseppe gives him a thumbs up. I open the Turin Register's most viewed list, an online article. Clickbait news causes scurvy in Italy's auto capital is trending across the nation. I begin having regular dinners with Bruno. We talk about our old adventures in school and about the state of the country. Bruno reminds me that a political science professor in university had taught us, every industry is selling a product, and at its core, the news industry sells fear. In the coming months, the number of cases of malnutrition, similar to Paulina's snowball across the nation. I notice Bruno starts to eat more and more. I have lost my appetite. Revenge is best served from the dead. My name is Danny Donahue, and I am not your ordinary 14-year-old boy from Southern California. Well, I guess I may be ordinary, except for one teeny thing, but I guess that's normal. Nobody is just ordinary. Heck, what does ordinary even mean? I guess I will never know. Because I am not your ordinary boy. I am Danny Donahue, the boy who helps ghosts cross into their next life. Movies weren't wrong. There are ghosts on Earth, and sometimes they might get stuck on Earth because they have unfinished business with someone or themselves. Ugh. They can't even get peace after they die. I thought, when we die, we are finally at peace. I guess, sadly not. Most of the time, it's something simple, like apologizing to someone, or something similar to that. But other times, it was hard. It wasn't because a task was too hard or complicated. No, it was because the ghosts themselves didn't even know what they had left to do. And that is something frustrating. I know what you may be thinking. What do his parents think? Probably think he belongs in the lunny bin. If you thought that, you thought wrong. His parents, Estelle and Banrable Donahue, possessed the same abilities their son had. But this story is my weirdest adventure yet. I still wonder if it actually even happened. It's kind of crazy, and Danny doesn't want to brag or anything, but he was quite awesome, if he had to say. This story started when my family and I had moved from Southern California to New York City. We only had moved here because this was the city populated with wandering souls, which just meant more stress on me. My social life was non-existent. My parents had homeschooled me since 2nd grade, when I began helping them out. But this unbelievable, well, me saying ghosts are real is already quite unbelievable, story started when I moved into my family's new apartment in the busy part of New York. When my parents weren't super cool ghost helpers, they were journalists. And might I add, mighty fine when they did their work. But that meant they barely had time to spend with me. I had opened the bright red door to the quite large apartment, opening my arms and breathing the new place in. I was quite excited to be living here. I never had been to New York before, and it seemed magical. When I had walked into my plain, empty room, I spotted a ghost. Great, can't even sleep one night without someone barging in. Danny grumbled to himself. I didn't think the ghost boy saw me. Who wouldn't? I am pretty handsome, Danny thought, running a hand through his thick black hair. I don't think the dead boy had seen me, and if he hadn't acknowledged me yet. Then the ghost boy had walked over to me from fiddling the sustains and slammed the door behind me. I just realized that the ghost thought I couldn't see him after I realized that I went over to the formerly alive boy and said hi. Never thought I would have spooked a ghost, but I guess I did, because it looked like the ghost seemed startled. You can see me. The tall ghost pointed up and down to himself, unsure. Since I'm talking to you, I'm pretty sure I can, I said, as it was obvious. Sorry. I'm really dead. The best scenario would be that I was dreaming, but am not, right? The ghost mumbled on. No, you are sadly dead, and I'm alive, and I can see you, but other people can't. Well, most people can't. By the way, my name is Danny, he stated while putting down boxes of his random junk on the floor. Well, nice to meet you, Danny. My name is Nicholas. The ghost, Nicholas, smiled at him. Danny, come here. We need your help. Danny's dad hollered from outside the apartment. I was sure the whole floor could hear him. Sure thing. Wait, hold on. You and your parents are going to be living here? Nicholas questioned. And can they see me? Or are you like some chosen one thing? Yes, and yes. My parents can see ghosts too. And our job is to help you move on, Danny said, opening the door and walking over to help his parents. But Nicholas had stayed in the same spot, not wanting to talk to Danny's parents. After all, he hadn't had any interaction with a living or a dead person in 2 years. He had gotten used to staying in the shadows and just listening to other people talk. I had come back with another enormous and heavy box and dropped it on the floor, making a loud whump sound. So, Nicholas, Danny said, testing his name on how it felt in his mouth. Why are you still here? I don't know. Nicholas shrugged. Then think of something stopping you from resting in peace. Then I walked back out of my room to grab more boxes. I had told my parents I had to set up my room and didn't want them to see it, only after I finished, so I would have an excuse to stay in my room. And plus, Nicholas didn't want to see my parents for some reason. Nicholas and I talked in hush whispers for hours that day, but he still couldn't think of any reason why he would still be a ghost. But a ghost, technically, is a person who is only partially dead. But he could think of anything. I had, though, learned that Nicholas was 47, but he had died 2 years ago in a drowning accident. I had urged him to tell me the reason for how he drowned, but he didn't say. Until an hour of my excellent persuasion, he told me that he couldn't swim and died before anyone got to him. I always knew I had good convincing skills. A couple of days passed, and still nothing. Danny just wanted to bring Nicholas to his parents. But Nicholas always refused. Ugh, if I went up to him, they would have probably figured out the reason for his reason to stay with the living. Okay, Danny, I think I might know why I am not really dead yet. Nicholas huffed out. He seemed slightly embarrassed, but more so angry. Finally! Been waiting for this for a while, Danny said, stretching back on his chair, taking a break from an easy he had to complete by 2 hours. Okay, so I lied. I didn't die by drowning, just to let you know I can swim. But I was drowned by my kids exactly 2 years ago. And I think the forgive and forget part hasn't exactly worked. And I think I might want revenge on those brats. Nicholas said in a hushed voice, not sure if he really trusted Danny. But if Danny said that he could help him, he might finally get avenged for his death. My eyes literally felt like they might come out of my eye sockets. Hold on, buddy. Just what? Danny said, shock clearly visible on his face. The ghost I always helped had simple tasks, and maybe once in a blue moon, it might be a little interesting. But this was just out of this world crazy. No more like out of the universe. So basically, you're telling me that you were some rich dude with spoiled brats for kids, and then when you were about to die, you decided to change your will so that your sister gets most of it? Danny asked, still thinking this was a really small reason to kill your dad, even if he was a billionaire and didn't even give you 1% of it. Yes, but you see, before I could change the will, they somehow found out about me changing it, so they killed me, so they would get over 80% of my money and estate. What happened to your wife? Danny wondered. She died a year before me, Nicholas said, with a sad smile, probably remembering his wife. So what do you want to do? I'm assuming you want payback, Danny said, raising an eyebrow. Yes, and I have been planning it for 2 years, so it's basically foolproof, Nicholas said with a smile. Family drama. Danny chuckled a little while thinking this. Then, that day, Nicholas told me what he had in mind, and I am not going to lie. It was quite clever. I guess when you have 2 years to think of a plan, and not any plan. A plan to get revenge on your killers. You would want to perfect it. Nicholas had been living in Danny's room for almost a year, and since Nicholas started living in this apartment, he always scared future tenants. Except for the Donahues, because they could see him. The strange thing was my parents still hadn't spotted Nicholas yet. Strange indeed. Nicholas had been living in this apartment specifically because it was right next to, you would never guess who, his kids' apartments. Every time he saw them, he felt sadness for what he let them become. But then the sadness turned into anger, and his blood started boiling whenever he looked at them for what he did to him. The next day, we started putting Nicholas's plan into action. But for one part of it, I had to borrow something from my parents without raising suspicion. I had to borrow a special drink that if a ghost drank it, they would be invisible, but be able to touch not too heavy stuff. I thought talking the elixir would be difficult, but it proved to be easy, since my mom was out meeting some new friends she had made, and my dad had gone grocery shopping. So I took the elixir with ease. After he got it, he gave it to Nicholas, and Nicholas slurped the dark bluish liquid down with one gulp. "Slow down, Nicky. You don't want to get a stomach ache," Danny teased. "First off, don't call me Nicky, and second, I am too excited." Nicholas seemed exhilarated. After the Donahue's concoction started settling in Nicholas's body, they tested it out to see if it really worked. They even tried the classical ghost picking up book thing, and behold, it worked. Almost as if Nicholas were alive. After that, Nicholas was extremely giddy and excited to get his plan in motion. After what seemed like half an hour, I finally thought we had enough of the playing, and now we had to get the work done. Nicholas had passed through and walked into his daughter, Stella's apartment. It had the same layout of which the Donahue's flat was, but theirs was more on the old side, whereas Stella's place was more modern and high-tech. Danny just had Nicholas go into the apartment and find the key to the front door and slide it over to Danny. Yes, the floor cracks were quite large. "Don't worry, she comes back in an hour, so that gives us an hour to play golf," Nicholas said with a smirk, grabbing a baseball bat and ruining all the expensive furniture and decor in the house. "I don't mind. I think that this should be all yours. You deserve this," Danny said with a dramatic bow, pretending Nicholas was royalty. He practically was. He was a billionaire. "Why, thank you," Nicholas said with amusement. After an hour of playing golf, they had successfully destroyed everything. Then the door opened, and you could hear screaming. But in my opinion, it sounded like a cat being hit by a car. "Oh my God! Oh my God! Not that painting! Not that painting! That cost too much to end up like this," said Stella, running around, looking through her apartment. Nicola watched with enjoyment as his daughter was running around checking her possessions that she had bought with his money. After all, it was his money, so it was his stuff too. "Hello, Stella. I hoped you learned a lesson about why you shouldn't kill people, especially not family." Nicholas boomed from standing beside the TV, and then she shattered the expensive screen. "What are you doing? Who are you? I'm calling with the cops. Get out of my place," Stella yelled back, visibly frightened, trying to sink into a wall and grabbing a hold of a knife. "My dear, you don't need to do that. I got a deal to make." Nicholas clearly enjoyed this. "I mean, Stella is a murder, so this should be okay. What do you want?" Stella stuttered, but tried keeping her head high. I want you to donate all the money you got from your father's will. Why is this your concern? Stella sneered back, still nervous. Don't you cut me off again, Nicholas shouted. The second thing you must do, or I will follow you and haunt you, even in your sleep. So don't you dare disobey me. The second thing you must do is that you and your brother, Jeremy, will have to go to the police station and tell them you committed the murder of Nicholas DeRosa. Understood me? Nicholas seethed out. Stella just grunted and walked out the door, slamming it shut before she left her apartment. Then, Nicholas walked out of the bathroom, where I was hiding behind a shower. I know it's not the best place, but still, you did good, Nicholas. Danny smiled at him, and Nicholas beamed out a smile so bright it would make the sun look like a little flame compared to Nicholas. Nicholas and Danny did the same stuff to Nicholas's son, Jeremy DeRosa. Nicholas and Danny had to repeat this routine for 2 weeks before Jeremy donated his part of the will and went to hand himself in to the police, which meant Stella only had little time left before Jeremy told the police what happened. After a week more of Nicholas's and Danny's torture, Stella couldn't take it anymore. She went to donate her money and hand herself in with a miserable face. She only handed herself in because Nicholas had haunted her so bad that she couldn't even close her eyes to sleep. And she looked and acted like a zombie. After 8 months, I guess that's it, Danny said to Nicholas, who was about to go to the life after death. I guess it is, little buddy. Thanks again. I never thought Jeremy and Stella would be put into prison, but I guess they get their karma. Nicholas thanked Danny. Jeremy and Stella had a trial, and this time, Nichols made sure they didn't just pay the money and not get charged with anything. After 8 months of watching court fights happen, both of the DeRosa kids, well, they aren't really kids, got sent to prison. Goodbye, Danny. Thank you so much. Hope you have a happy ending to your life, Nichols said, as he vanished away into thin air, into the afterlife. You may think the story ends here, but you're very wrong. The DeRosa kids had mysteriously died in prison, and they realized that Danny was helping their father scare them. So now the DeRosa kids were after me. And I am now basically a runaway, that I am even on national television. So proud of myself. Stella and Jeremy are coming to kill me for messing up their lives, and I am so going to end up dead meat. A fatal prank check. The day started off like any other April Fool's Day. Minor pranks, like taping the bottom of the faucet and letting all the water squirt up at the person's face and clothes. Unplugging the copy machine so others can think it doesn't work, and they have to handwrite it. Sticky, noting a random person's cubicle, and placing an upside-down cup that says, Don't move this cup unless you're going to kill it. On someone's desk who's scared of insects, but come to find out there isn't anything under it. There are much more pranks that happen at our company's office. It was just a matter of time until someone took it overboard. That someone wasn't just a someone. We were all included. Tommy Miller was just the poor guy who had it done to him. We all swore that day. We swore that we wouldn't tell, that no one will find out what happened. I knew all things. Or did I get it all wrong? After all the pranks were over, everyone was at the edge of their feet, hoping that all the pranks were completed. Little by little, an untouched prank would make its way through. But it was fading, and everyone could work at peace. Our boss, David Klon, never liked attending work on April Fools. He stopped coming after one of his employees, Saran, wrapped his whole office. When I mean the whole office, by the time he cut through the layers of Saran on his door, which took hours, he walked into a room and office equipment covered in layers of fine plastic. It was honestly the cherry on top to past pranks, stealing his coffee machine and his backup, removing his fridge away from his room, and potentially removing all his furniture. These were great boss pranks, and I'm surprised no one got caught or fired. The day was almost ending, and daytime shifters were exiting the building. It didn't matter, because the daytime shifters consisted of 4 to 5 workers. The main workers of 6 to 10 workers were us, the all-time shifters. It consisted of Matt Donovan, Sophie Mari, Carson T., Maddie Marone, Evan Tyson, Mickey L., Victoria Stallion, Tommy Miller, and I, Francis D'Angelo. We were all somewhat close, definitely in age, but somewhat in communication. The only person who stayed to themselves was Tommy. He was the quiet businessman type, focused on his own work and prioritizes. He thought the office pranks were stupid, although he didn't directly say that. He had a short comb-over cut, his brown hair nicely gelled off to the right of his head. He wore suits, the nice kind. He arrived early to work, never arrived late in his life, I suppose. Matt Donovan stood up from his cubicle and gathered everyone who was left in the office. Except for Tommy. We all gathered up in my cubicle because I was the last one to be gathered up. "What's going on?" I questioned, knowing something was up. Matt replied quickly, "We're going out. Having fun tonight. We all know we're the brilliant masterminds that are behind all the crazy pranks." He was wrong, at least this time. I had nothing to do with any pranks this year. I ran out of things to do, and although that seems awful, me, Francis D'Angelo, pranking innocent co-workers of mine. I know, but it's fun and a one-time, each year type of thing. So, that's all? You want us to all go out? Like to the bar? Victoria asked. What I think Matt is trying to say is that he wants us to go out so we can turn up and congratulate ourselves for being awesome pranksters, Carson said. He was always the goofy one. That's not what I meant. I do think we should celebrate another year of great pranks, but not yet. I think we should all do one final prank, Matt said suspiciously. He made my spine tremble when he talked like that. Okay, Matt. April Fool's is practically over. What is the big prank about, anyway? I wanted to know, too, just as much as Evan did. Well, my dear Evan, we're going to prank Tommy Miller. What? I couldn't believe it. Why Tommy? He was, I don't know. He was just different. Pranking him tonight was stupid. Matt, that's stupid. Keep your voice down, Francis. You don't have to be a part of it. We won't exactly need you anyways. And what is that supposed to mean, Matt? I'm totally in. My blood was boiling. How can Matt say that after that fact, I helped him last year prank his mom? Okay, good. Mickey, Maddie, and Sophie, you guys in? Sure, whatever. Yeah, fine. Okay, here's the plan. We all huddled into each other, listening to Matt's prank. Even though this prank was a little too serious, we all thought it was a nutty idea. It was interesting, and it seemed funny. I also couldn't back down from it. I just couldn't. Hey, Tommy, we're all going out for some pizza and beer. Want to join us? Tommy rotated his chair, facing up. Why? I mean, thanks for the offer, but I think I'll have to pass. He turned back around. We knew this was gonna happen. Victoria makes her way to Tommy. She places her soft hands on his shoulders. Oh, please, Tommy. She massages his shoulders. I think you should hang with us. You're always so. She stoops down to his ear. Tense. She removes her touch from him and walks toward us. She is absolutely astonishing. Tommy spins back again to face us. We wait a little while for the answer that we've been waiting for. Okay, I suppose one night of hanging out won't hurt. Plan A. Flirtatious. Victoria. Check. Plan B. Complimenting. Matt in progress. That's a sport, Tommy. I always knew you had in ya. You got the looks, dude. All you need is the bad attitude, and you're all set, my guy. We could all tell Tommy was flattered. Plan B was another check, getting Tommy to like us. Let's take some shots before we hit the road, Ivan yelled. We all walked to the office's lounge. As soon as we walked in, Ivan and Matt hunched over a barrel-looking thing. They pulled out 2 bottles of vodka. I could tell Victoria was excited, but the rest looked somewhat confused on how they even snuck that in here. Of course, we aren't going to drink all of it, but a shot or 2 will do. I'll get the solo cups. Tommy hesitates to walk into the lounge, but Sophie walks to him and grabs his arm. You're first, hot stuff. No. I think I'm good. I don't think you guys should even have those in this building, due to how unprofessional that is, and also because we're going to be driving in cars. Last time I checked, drunk driving is illegal. Oh, please, Tommy, don't ruin this for us, dude. Evan poured some vodka into each of the 9 cups. We all took one, even Tommy. We all pushed him into doing so. He had to, so he could overcome what was going to happen next. Afterward, we walked to the coat rack and grabbed our stuff. We all walked out together, without Tommy. We let him catch up with us at the parking lot for future purposes. We all gathered around our cars. Luckily, Sophie and Even caught a ride with Matt today. Less cars to ride in equals less suspicion. Ugh, there you guys are. You guys walk mighty fast. I'm guessing you can't wait to party. Tommy laughs with a tone that sounds humorless. We went along with it, so we can spark up the mood. Ha ha ha. You're so funny, Tommy. We all cried in unison. So, Tommy, I don't see your car anywhere. Did you catch a ride with someone today? I just realized that Tommy's station wagon wasn't parked anywhere around. That was weird. Oh yeah, I took the bus. My old thing is in mechanics. She's beautiful, but losing her touch, I suppose. Mind if I catch a ride with one of you guys? Not at all, Tommy. Not at all. Matt's voice sounded too enthusiastic. He nodded to Yvonne. Come on, Tommy. You're riding with me. Evan had a nice, wide smile across his face. Plan C. Dump him in progress. It was go time. Sophie and Victoria walked to Tommy's side. We're riding with you and Yvonne. This is gonna be a fun ride. Even in the shallow night, I can tell Tommy's face got a little red. Yvonne popped the trunk of his Audi open. Carson walked to Yvonne's car and held the trunk open for him. Thanks, dude. This car is a piece of crap. The stupid trunk door can't even stay open by itself. Hey, Tommy, you can place your stuff in the trunk. It won't fit in the back seat. Sorry. Tommy walks to the trunk and starts placing his stuff in the trunk. Before you do that, Tommy, I have to move some stuff around to make room. May I use your flashlight on your phone to see? Yeah, sure. Tommy hands Evan his phone. Evan turns the flashlight on and pretends to make space in the back of his trunk. Maddie and I go into Matt's car. We peeked out the window to see what was happening. Sophie and Victoria also go into Yvonne's car. They couldn't see anything because of the trunk's door. Mickey and Matt slowly walk towards Yvonne, Carson, and Tommy. Everything okay? Jeez, you guys take mighty long. What's going on? Yvonne talks. Tommy, you can place your stuff in now. Tommy did as Yvonne said. We're just trying go time. Mickey and Matt shove Tommy into the trunk. Mickey pins Tommy down, and Evan removes a roll of duct tape from his pocket. Yvonne tucks Tommy's phone into Matt's pocket, rips a chunk of tape with his teeth, and smacks it onto Tommy's mouth. Happy April Fool's Day, Tommy. You gotta live a little. Matt waves to Tommy. Carson slams the trunk door shut and enters into a separate car with Mickey. Plan C. Dump him? Check. On to Plan D. Plan D. Car ride around town in progress. We all drove in separate cars. We drove in random directions. When we drove around other cars, we intentionally stayed back a few cars. We were just going to drive a little, then stop at Mamma Mia's Pizzeria. We drove for an hour and 35 minutes. I just stared out the window, wondering how the others were doing, wondering how Tommy was doing. I wondered if he was confused or scared. Maybe he was just enjoying this wild adventure or sleeping. I can't wait to see the look on his face when he realizes that today might just be the best day of his entire life. Ivan's car. I got my hands up. They're playing my song. They know I'm gonna be okay. Yeah, it's a party in the USA. Yeah, it's a party in the USA. Sophie and Victoria sang. You girls having fun? Definitely, Ivan, Sophie shouted. I can't wait to get wasted, Victoria proclaimed. Hey, Tommy, you having fun in there? This is a wild ride for you, Tommy. This is the best day of your freaking life, dude. If you aren't having a great time, well, screw you. Ivan laughed and yelled. Songs kept playing, and the singing kept going until they arrived at Mamma Mia's Pizzeria. Mickey's car. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine. You're so fine. You blow my mind. Hey, Mickey. Hey, Mickey. Carson wailed. Shut up, moron. You're such a goof. By the way, my name isn't the name in the song. Dummy. Whatever. I was just being silly. It was funny. You have to admit. Yeah, sure. They look at each other and start laughing tears. How do you think Tommy's doing? He should be fine. I mean, come on, that was a funny prank. Did you see the look on his face? Ah, speechless. That was a fun time. I sort of feel bad for the guy. He had no clue what was happening. He had it coming. Besides, it's just a prank, Carson. Matt even said it himself. Matt's car. I continue to stare out the window. The cars wisp by as Matt drives past every light and building. My lap vibrates, and I pick up my phone. The screen light glares on my face as I read the text that I've received. Maddie, don't you think it's a bit weird? We're the only two that haven't helped in this whole prank. I haven't thought about that, really. Me. Well, Matt did say, regardless of me attending this prank, he doesn't need me. I don't know what the excuse for you is, though. I'm sure he'll give us something to do. The thought of Matt not needing me made me upset. Maddie, I felt, had a point. Why hadn't I gotten a role yet? Maddie, I guess you're right, but something seems off. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure I don't want to find out. Matt glances over his seat and smiles at both Maddie and I. You girls sitting nice and tight back there? Just fine. Thank you, Maddie says, sounding a bit sarcastic. Yup, just starving. I really am hungry. Well, I just so happened to bring along the vodka. Care for another shot or two? Yeah, why not? Matt expands his arm while peeking his eye on the road to reach the bottle of vodka beneath the glove compartment. He hands the bottle over. I twist the cap and waterfall a big gulp of the bitter alcohol into my mouth. I offer some to Maddie, but reluctantly, she refuses. After a while, my head starts to spin, and the passing of cars begins to turn a little blurry. Car motion and the beginning of becoming drunk aren't a good mix. Occasionally, I would gargle a couple strands of vodka into my mouth. It made me almost forget why I'm in this car in the first place. Plan day. Car ride around town. Check. Secret plan. Plan E. Unload in progress. Mamma Mia's Pizzeria parking lot. I'm sleeping in the back seat while Maddie gently shakes me to wake up. I just moan, giving the hint to leave me alone. Maddie gets out of the car with Matt and joins the others. As everyone heads inside, Tommy and I are left alone in separate cars. By this time, the bottle of vodka is completely empty, and I don't even remember me finishing the last gulp. I lie back with my eyelids feeling extremely heavy. Everything around me was a bit muffled. I felt prickles all over my body. Do you have Maddie? Yes. Do I? Yes. Now. It's all set. Let's go. Maddie? Matt? What were you guys talking about? Their voices were in and out. I feel very dizzy. The whole night felt dark. There I was, gone. I was always just gone. Looking out, but looking inside now. I guess the whole time, I sort of knew. I just didn't want to admit it. Secret plan. Plan E. Unload. Check. No one would suspect a thing when they find us. I mean, in the beginning, I just thought it was a silly prank. But I didn't realize I wasn't a part of it all. Just the fact that Tommy and I were the prank. When we both didn't wake up. Tommy being dead, and I being intoxicated and drugged. I didn't know. We both didn't know, and that's the sad part. Chad. Autopsy. Tommy Miller, age 24, male, brown hair and eyes. Location of death, in the woods. Time of discovery, Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. Inward body. Consumption of alcohol. Lungs collapsed. Difficulty breathing. Vomit in the esophagus. Outward body. Pale skin. Red under eyes. Eyes opened. Half naked. Possibility of the cause of death. Choked on vomit. Failure to breathe. Francis D'Angelo, age 22, female, blonde hair and green eyes. Location of death, in the woods. Time of discovery, Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. Inward body. Consumption of alcohol. Multiple drug consumption. Outward body. Pale skin. Needle markings. Bloodshot eyes. Eyes opened. Half naked. Possibility of the cause of death. Intoxication. And everything was planned ahead of time. Maybe a month before April Fools. Everyone who I thought were my friends, co-workers, had everything planned. All evidence was hidden, and everything was perfectly placed. Everything was supposed to be a silly prank, but it turned out to be a prank gone terribly wrong.